Russia has been arming Iran for years. Russia's support enabled the Iranian military posture that produced the Hormuz closure. The Hormuz closure is achieving Washington's stated strategic objective against China. These three facts rarely appear in the same paragraph. This is that paragraph. The conflict with Iran is being covered as a bilateral war. The United States versus the Islamic Republic. Nuclear ambitions versus regional security. The IAEA, the IRGC, and the bombs falling on Tehran. That framing is incomplete. The public record contains a third actor whose role in producing the current situation has received almost no sustained coverage: Russia. And when you add Russia to the frame, the picture changes substantially. Yesterday, this publication documented how National Security Presidential Memorandum 2, signed by President Trump on February 4, 2025, named cutting off China's oil supply as an explicit US strategic objective, 13 months before military operations began. The Hormuz closure, executed by Iran, has achieved that objective. That story is here. Today's story is about who gave Iran the tools to do it. The Russia-Iran military relationship is not a secret. It is documented in US government reports, Treasury sanctions filings, and Western intelligence assessments going back years. What has changed since 2022 is the depth and pace of the relationship. After Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Tehran became one of Moscow's most important military suppliers, providing Shahd series loitering munitions that were used extensively against Ukrainian infrastructure. That relationship ran both ways. By 2024, the United States, Israel, and European intelligence services were documenting a significant flow of Russian military technology back to Iran guidance systems, radar-defeating components, and according to multiple Western government assessments, advanced surface-to-surface missile technology that meaningfully upgraded Iran's precision strike capability. The US government's posture toward Russia remains officially adversarial. Russia is a designated state sponsor of aggression. Moscow's support for Iran is treated, in official Washington, as hostile action, part of a broader axis of authoritarian states acting against Western interests. That framing is real. Russia's motives for arming Iran are not charitable to the United States. Moscow benefits from regional instability that elevates oil prices, strains US military resources, and undermines American alliances. Russia's support for Iran is a genuine strategic competition move. And yet, the more uncomfortable framing, and the one that deserves coverage precisely because it is uncomfortable, is this: did any of this happen by design? There is documented public record of back-channel communication between the Trump and Putin governments that preceded the conflict. Axios reported in January 2026 on a series of envoy-level exchanges that took place through late 2025, the substance of which has not been fully disclosed. Trump has publicly expressed a preference for negotiated resolution with Russia on Ukraine that would require Moscow's cooperation on other matters. NSPM-2 was signed in February 2025. It named China's oil access as a target. It would have been apparent to any sophisticated geopolitical actor, including Russia, that an Iran conflict producing a Hormuz disruption would achieve that target. American media coverage of the conflict has been extensive. It has covered the military campaign, the humanitarian situation, the nuclear question, the Israeli angle, and the oil market disruption. What it has not done, in any systematic way, is cover the Russia angle and the China angle in the same frame as the Iran campaign. There are structural reasons for this. The Russia relationship is complicated and politically charged. Any coverage that raises the collusion question risks being dismissed as conspiratorial. The Iran war is already the dominant story. Adding Russia and China to the analytical frame requires space, sourcing, and editorial willingness to pursue a story that generates friction. But the framing is not a conspiracy theory. It is a factual observation about the public record. Russia armed Iran. If this was enemy action that accidentally served US interests, the evidence would show. A Trump administration genuinely surprised by the Hormuz closure, Internal documents treating the disruption as an unintended consequence requiring management, and no prior planning that incorporated Gulf disruption as a scenario. If there was some form of coordination or foreknowledge, whether with Russia or in the Trump administration's own planning, the evidence would show. Internal documents anticipating Gulf disruption as a mechanism for achieving NSPM2 objectives, communications between US and Russian parties around the relevant period, or a timeline of military escalation that followed a script too clean to be coincidental. Neither set of documents is currently public. No Problem News is covering this conflict as what the primary source record suggests it is: a geopolitical realignment with multiple parties whose public actions, documented in government filings, intelligence assessments and policy documents, form a pattern that mainstream coverage has not fully assembled. Yesterday's piece documented the NSPM2 record and the Hormuz closure's effects on China. Today's piece documents Russia's role in arming Iran. Tomorrow's piece will cover what China is actually doing in response, and why that response has strategic implications that extend well beyond oil markets. None of this requires classified information. All of it requires reading what is already public and putting it in the same frame. That's the story. For the full article, sources, and more news that matters, visit noproblemnews.com. noproblemnews.com, keeping you informed.